Chris. Another perfect, beautiful day here in San Diego, California.
Yes. And you know what I'm so impressed of is you have testimonials from Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Joe Polish, Dean Jackson, Eben Pagan, Dan Sullivan, and you've advised and consulted for JJ Virgin, Richard Dreyfus, Tim Ferriss, Phil Town. And you were referred to us by Jeffrey Madoff, who is just on the podcast.
I love Jeffrey.
Yeah, what a sweetheart of a guy, isn't he? He's a phenomenal human being.
Brilliant. He's a freaking genius. He really is.
Exactly. And he's worked directly with oh geez, and who is it?
Victoria's Secret.
Victoria's Secret and Ralph Lauren for over 3 decades,
Yeah.
I think, for both of them. Yes,
He's a snappy dresser too.
he is.
But
Yes.
Here's what I love about Jeffrey. So I met him originally through Joe Polish, and we just connected right away. And I had in another life, I made a feature film, and he and I went off on talking about feature films. But he's the guy who I'll call up, and we'll meet in Manhattan, for example, for coffee at 8 a.m. And we will say goodbye 10 times. And then finally at 5 p.m., when the coffee shop owner is screaming at us to get the hell out of his shop, we finish our conversation. So he's the kind of guy you can sit around with, and 8 hours goes by like it's 5 minutes.
Yes.
And he's such a complex thinker, and he just has mental bandwidth galore.
Yes. And it's just a very genuine human being. Like, everybody would hope their kids kind of turn out to be an individual like Jeffrey. Like, that would be, success.
You're right.
I was going to say, well, I lost my train of thought when we started talking about
Whoops,
Jeffrey.
sorry about that.
That's
Squirrel.
okay. Yeah. But he referred you to us. And I was super excited when I saw your background and learned more about you. And in many ways, Mike, you're kind of like the go-to man or the go-to man for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, even celebrities, kind of like the man behind the man or even the G-man. And I like meeting those individuals because they're not as necessarily as all over the place or as super well known, but they're just as powerful. They're doing things you've sold $50 million online, and you've worked with all these individuals, and it's like everybody knows who you are. But, whether you're behind the scenes or up on stage or in front of it's awesome. So that's why one of the reasons I'm really, really excited to bring you to the show. And I'd like to start off because I watched a video of you recently talking about the one-word offer and the two-word brand. And it really hit home for me because it's a bit historical, but I think it's a really powerful story because I work a lot on getting messaging down to fewer words, and it's an art, and it takes a lot of work, right?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Can you tell us about the theme behind the one-word offer and the two-word brand?
Sure can. And so here's the setup. Dan Sullivan and I have been doing this podcast, Capability Amplifier, for a little while, and we're doing an in-person interview. Let's see. There's some fantastically interesting resort in Arizona made by one of the most famous architects, and I can't think of his name right now. It's driving me nuts. Maybe it'll pop into your head.
Is it in Phoenix?
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? It's an old school. It looks like an old Hollywood set.
By Camelback Mountain.
Yes.
Yeah. I bet.
Very famous architect. It's going to drive us both nuts.
Yes. I used to sneak into the pool. So I lived in Scottsdale for 4 years, and I used to sneak into the pools of all those resorts so I could feel. So this is like I was a young entrepreneur.
You'd feel rich.
I would feel rich. That's exactly what I did. Yeah. Yes. We'll think of the architect here in a second. Yeah. But,
all right. It'll pop into my head too. Yeah. All right. So he did falling water, running water, or one of those. It'd be an easy search online. But here, I'll tell you the story. So Dan and I were sitting around, and I'm always trying to think of how can I extract the maximum amount of value out of anyone that I interview. And Dan Sullivan is a freaking genius. And I thought, wow. And at the time, I was thinking a lot about what are the fewest number of words that anyone would need to say to convince someone to raise their hand and say, I do, I want you. I've been looking for you my whole life. How do we start working together? And I want it for me. I want it for my clients. And it's super fascinating. Like, how do you get past the I don't trust you, who the hell are you, why should I listen to you phase that we all go through, our lizard brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said to Dan, I said, I want to do an interview with you about what's the best pitch you've ever heard. And he stopped for like 2 beats. And then he turns to me, he goes, I'll do one better than that. I'll give you the one word offer. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
Uh-huh.
Dan's a huge history freak and just knows everything. He just loves history, world history, going back to, forever ago. He said, here's the setup. It's 450 AD. Rome has conquered the known world. And the way Rome grew is by conquering other nations, nation states, other tribes, whatever. And when you were conquered, you got absorbed. And when you got absorbed, your boys became Roman soldiers. And if they survived, if they were good soldiers, and they'd have to last like 25 years. It was a long period of time back then. Okay, so not a lot of them made it. But if you did, you would be rewarded with Roman land. Now, if you were rewarded Roman land, you had land rights, which gave you voting rights, which gave you human rights. And back then, if you were a Roman citizen, it meant there was a common language, there was democracy, there were roads, there was a currency, and you had the might of Roman military behind you. It was kind of like being an American 25 years ago. No one messed with an American worldwide. That's just the rule. So unfortunately, Rome had forgotten about some of the commitments it made to some of the warring tribes. And there was a Germanic tribe that they had conquered, and they hadn't been rewarded and given what they were promised. So this group got together and they're a little pissed off. So they're marching towards Rome. They're about to raise holy hell. And one thing about having an outsourced army, it meant that everyone else kind of knew what was going on, and they're kind of pissed about it too. Not all of them had been granted their land. They're like, these son of a gun, I'll just maybe let this happen. But what happened at the last minute is Julius Caesar stood up and shouted one word to the crowd as they were about to sack Rome. And that word was civitas, which means citizenship. So all those groups were granted citizenship with one word. Now, the most important takeaway from the story is, yes, it was one word. It was a one-word offer. It was a one-word pitch. But in order for that to be effective, you need context first. So you had to understand what citizenship meant. And what a great brand does is it creates stories in our minds. It creates a result, an outcome, a benefit ahead of time that can get triggered by that offer. And so what a great brand is going to do is it's going to activate our visual, whatever our sense is, and whatever it is we desire most of all. So, like an Apple brand is a status brand. Nike is a winner brand, and on and on.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's move into, so we have the one word offers. So that was civitas. That was citizenship for the Germanic tribes, right? And the other tribes that were forgotten, but then all of a sudden accepted. So break this down. And you talked about Nike and what's when you mean 2-word brand. So for me, 2-word brand means, I'm practical. So 2 words, like I'm looking for, what are the 2 words that are going to be there? Like you have superpower accelerator, so can we dive into more of the nuts and bolts and some real world examples of the 1-word offer and 2-word brand?
Yeah, I think I want to give you a couple thoughts here to go along with that, because let me think about how to frame this best. So when I think these days, and just yesterday I was with a client all day, and he opened my eyes to something really, really big that I think is parallel to this. And I'm going to go off on a couple little tangents, and I know you'll bring us back home. So here's the basic idea. He was talking about how, like, to me, Elon Musk, I believe, will be the first $1 trillion personal brand. And if you ask like, well, why is that? It's because when Elon Musk opens his mouth, not always, but in general, the stock price increases. You know, you look at Tesla, you look at SpaceX, you look at whatever.
Dogecoin.
And, yeah, even Dogecoin, right? And you think, when else has that ever happened? But there is a massive blur between personal brands and business brands right now. And Elon Musk, according to Howard Getson, my client, like he created a whole framework that revolves around this. So what Elon did is he said, electric motors have reached a certain point, and we're going to make an electric car. And he developed a product. And if you follow an evolutionary course, Tesla is now a platform. Okay. That platform means there is licensable content. They give away, you can take Tesla's patents and create your own, use your own supercharger cable. They're giving away the patents because Elon knows that creating more electric cars is going to change the world. It's going to create more desire and demand for everything else they do. And a natural byproduct of Tesla was also their solar panels and their batteries, their power wall. And then if you look at SpaceX is a platform. Yes, Elon was smart enough to build rockets, win the X Prize, start launching reusable rockets, get paid by the government. So his prototypes got bought and paid for. And then if you take a look at what he's doing with SpaceX, this is Howard's perspective anyway, soon some of the things that are going to happen is, what if China goes to Mars and says, hey, all this stuff on Mars is ours. What are you going to do about it? There's going to be a whole industry revolving around space policing soon. I mean, the amount of wealth and opportunity that's created from a platform. And another comparable example is Apple, which is a multi-trillion-dollar company now. No one would have imagined when the iPhone came out that there was going to be an app store. But as soon as Apple created the App Store, suddenly it created a multi-billion-dollar industry of third-party app developers. So I know I went off on a tangent there, but I believe that when you start thinking about a one-word offer, a two-word brand, the next evolution of this is, how do you create a platform from everything that you create? And not everything can be a platform, but that has the ultimate level of value. And what brands are all about are about monetizing an idea, a concept, and creating a community or an ecosystem around it, much like the app ecosystem. And so the ultimate expression of a brand is a platform. The ultimate expression of a human being, what makes Elon so powerful is his reach, his ability to just present an idea and change the way humanity even thinks about something, not to mention being able to implement it. So I don't know if that answered your question or got things rolling, but
it does. So a two-word brand doesn't mean that we need a brand with specifically two words.
No. I'm actually looking up my original messages. So I'm going to be totally honest with you. I can't remember what the hell my two-word brand perspective is. So I'm just like shifting around looking for it. And I wrote that like over a year ago. And I've gone through so many iterations since then. So you caught me off guard and I didn't expect this today, but I'm looking for what the hell I called the two-word brand.
So it's interesting with branding, because it seems like as brands evolve, they get bigger, their branding will go down to less words and maybe just one word, right?
Yeah.
And so example
You're
was
Nike.
Yeah, just do it or do it. But TransferWise is now no longer TransferWise, it's now just Wise. And and it's kind of curious, but I guess Coca-Cola is kind of, would you consider that one word, or it's not really even a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Coke.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but Pepsi is one, Sprite, 7-Up. What else?
And I know what I mean, Coca-Cola is the best example. I can taste Coca-Cola when I hear the word, but that's taken God knows how long to
evolve.
You know that. Yeah.
What are some global 2-word brands? I'm curious, like the household names, if we can think of any.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you an example again of context. So,
Okay.
um, there is someone who I really, really admire. So this is again a human platform, a human brand. His name is Max Martin. I don't know. You ever heard of Max Martin?
Just because I watched your videos. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, I'll tell the audience.
But please tell. Yes, that's a great story.
Yeah. So Max Martin is a guy who, if you're in the music industry, you know who Max Martin is, because third only to Paul McCartney and John Lennon, he has more #1 hits than anyone else alive. And he's worked with Britney Spears, Oops, I Did It Again, Backstreet Boys, The Weeknd, just about every catchy dance beat and song that's like a mega hit. Max Martin produced it. Most likely he wrote the song. And in the world of music, if you are a songwriter or an arranger, composer, producer, you're probably making more money than the artist. And when that song gets licensed for a movie or remade, you're making the real money, not the artist. That's the and so what I love about Max is he's probably worth $500 million, but he has one thing that celebrities don't, and that is anonymity. He could walk down the street and no one knows who he is except the people who need to know him. He's got immense wealth. He's got immense power, and everyone in the music industry, everyone who needs to know him knows him. And to me, that's been something I always desired. I never had the need to be famous. I've done plenty of famey things, speaking and all that. But after I got to meet with and work with a lot of celebs, I made a feature film at one point, a couple documentaries. I was like, this business sucks. It's just filled with parasites and predators and jackals and hyenas. I mean, the worst of the worst sociopaths. Not everyone, but a lot of them. But the bad part is you can't tell who's who half the time until, you're in with them. And when you hear some of the stuff that goes on, it's just horrible. And in the early days, just because you're famous didn't mean you had any wealth or any money at all. You got an allowance and you were encouraged to spend your whole allowance, and then you're always at beholden. It's kind of like, it's like being a heroin addict. And so anyway, I went off on a tangent again, but with regards to 2-word brands, I'm going to just give you 1-word brands, the ones that I think are the most important and the most valuable right now. And you just got to look and say, what do they all have in common? Amazon, okay, Apple, Tesla, SpaceX. You could say Nike, but if I go back to the other ones like Amazon, why is Amazon so freaking huge right now? It's because it has a platform, and the platform is Amazon Cloud Services, for example, AWS, all those services, which account for 63% of their revenue. And what makes it work is it's participatory. In other words, anytime you give someone the ability to cash in on one of 3 things inside your brand, you can create an ecosystem. And the primitive ones are get paid, get laid, live forever. So give me the ability to make money. The get laid is give me a chance or an opportunity to elevate my status, my authority, the ability to stand out. That's what like fashion brands do. Apple is technically a status brand, or live forever is lifestyle, improve my longevity, quality of health, weight loss, weight gain. And then if you can do all 3, you've got the perfect product. Now, how do we make this relevant to all of us who've got regular businesses? The easiest way to create a platform generally for most businesses, I'll give you a real life one that I did years ago. So I started Traffic Geyser and Instant Customer, which were basically software tools that either let you broadcast video and distribute it on lots of platforms. You got free traffic. This is before even the notion of content spam was an idea. Yeah. But that's basically what Traffic Geyser did. You put your video in one place, you press a button, it went to every site. This is back when there were 120 YouTubes. There were social networking sites and social bookmarking sites, and this thing created lots of references. And one of the things that we noticed was a whole bunch of our customers were doing social media marketing for clients, effectively building some of the first digital marketing agencies. That was interesting. And then we had another platform that became Instant Customer, which was one of the first two-way interactive mobile text marketing platforms. So it'd be like going to a restaurant, text something, scan a QR code, get in a database, get a menu or whatever, get your lists. And again, what I noticed is a lot of our buyers didn't we're doing this work for other people, but they wouldn't tell them about us. Mm-hmm. But we wound up creating a product called Main Street Marketing Machines. And it was a product that taught people how to make $5,000 or $10,000 part-time doing social media, video marketing, or mobile text marketing for other businesses. And we had all kinds of templates and tools, and we showed people how to make $5,000 in a half a day. That was the big promise. Uh-huh. And when we launched that product, it just so happened that it came out in 2008, right when there was the housing crisis. Mm-hmm. It meant people had credit, but a third of our buyers, a full third, were in real estate some way. They had literally lost their shorts and they had to make money now. So the perfect storm hit. We sold $9.1 million worth of product in a week, $3 million in a day on a live webinar. And this is in 2008 when it cost me $25,000 to broadcast for a day. There was no YouTube Live or Facebook Live. It was, by bandwidth. And it's when computers still struggled with high resolution video. I mean, we had big problems we had to figure out and solve. But here's the big takeaway. We took a platform, which was just software, and we showed people how to make money. And we created a community around that, which was an ecosystem of sharing. So we had events, and we brought people together, and we took our most successful clients, we gave them a stage and said, teach people your secrets. And we made them really popular overnight because they had some special skills. And the human nature is, I'm not going to share my great secrets, but because it was part of our ecosystem, our community, and the ethos, that created a movement. And we had incredibly loyal customers for a long time. And we replicated that years later when Amazon came out with the KDP platform. We taught people how to write books, publish them, and become a best-selling author. And we created a certification program where then we taught people how to do that as a business, make $10,000 or more per month. And again, we created a platform. So what I tell everyone is the quickest way to build a platform is to show people how to make money with your know-how, your knowledge, or increase their status or authority, or improve the quality of their life and turn that into a business.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. The next question I want to ask you, Mike, is you basically have went from small town Minnesota to somebody that rubs shoulders with the biggest names in entrepreneur industries and even celebrities as well. And you have on your website, Tony Robbins is bragging about you. He's talking about how great a guy you are and the work that you've done together and why he's impressed by the things that you've done. How did you get there from small town Minnesota to being the individual that you are today, working with some of my heroes, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, Jeffrey Madoff, and hanging out with these people on a regular basis?
All right. I'll tell you a story that will sum it up and answer the question. I could just say, I learned some skills, and it was in the right place at the right time with some skills that famous people needed. And I demonstrated trustworthy behavior early on, so that they said, you seem like a good person. Will you help me with XYZ? Okay, that's the non-sexy explanation.
Okay.
But I'll give you a sexier one.
Okay.
Which is a variation of how I've done this every time. And I could break down like how I met each of these people and what happened step by step. And I'll give you the Tony one after I tell you, I'll tell you a Richard Dreyfus story. So he's like, I loved Richard Dreyfus growing up, you know, seeing Jaws and tons of other movies. It turns out that historically he for years, he was the youngest Academy Award winning actor. So he's been like a big deal for a long time. So one day I was flying to South by Southwest. I was on my way to Austin, and I'm on a flight. And for whatever reason, I can't remember, it must have been really busy. I had to go to Salt Lake City and then down to Austin. There was no direct flight. So I'm on my way and I sit down in my seat. I'm on a Southwest flight. Okay. And I overhear two guys in front of me saying, "Hey, do you see who's in front of us? It's Richard Dreyfus, the actor." And I turn my head, and sure as hell, I see Richard Dreyfus. I mean, you can just tell by the back of his head. He's got that curly white hair. And I'm like, damn, I want to meet Richard Dreyfus. And so I'm thinking, like, how can I connect and meet with him? In fact, I got this wild hair, and I'm like, I want to bring him into my studio and interview him. So I look him up, pull up my phone, and I type in Richard Dreyfus Foundation or Richard Dreyfus Nonprofit. And right away I found that's the Holy Grail. And quick backstory, my wife's run a nonprofit for 16 years called the Just Like My Child Foundation. And every famous person I know always creates a vehicle that they can use their platform to have impact beyond what they're doing. And it's also a great tax deduction. Okay. So it's smart money, and it's also a smart way to give. And of course I found his foundation, looked them up. So I knew what it was. And one of the other things I always do is I always travel with a Sharpie and a couple of my most recent books, whatever I've written. Now, you wouldn't have to have a book. You could have a greeting card or whatever. So what I did is I prepared myself. So when we landed in Salt Lake, I saw him standing up. So I got up, had my book, and I walked right behind him. And just as we're turning the corner, I said, "Mr. Dreyfus, my name is Mike Koenigs, and I have some ideas to help you raise money for your foundation." And he turned to me and he goes, "Call me Rick." He goes, "I need you." That's what he did. And I handed him my book on top of it. I go, "By the way, here's a book I wrote." And I opened it up, and inside was, "Hi, Mr. Dreyfus, my name is Mike Koenigs. I have some ideas to help you raise money for your foundation. Here's my email address. Here's my phone number." Nice. I hand that to him, and he's like, "Man, I ought to write a book." And I go, "That's something I can help you with. I've helped over 1,000 people write books." "Really? Walk with me." So we walk up and he's like, "Where are you going?" I go, "South by Southwest." And he goes, "Me too. I'll tell you what, I'll make sure you and me are sitting next to each other in the next leg of the flight." So he's like, "So tell me, what's your idea?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all," and the first thing he said is, "Look, I'm old, I'm fat, I had a back operation, sick of traveling, raising money is a pain in the ass." And he goes, "If you can help me with that, I'd be like forever grateful." And I go, "It's easy." And it turns out he lives in Olivenhain, which is basically in San Diego. Okay. He goes, "Where do you live?" I go, "I'm in San Diego." He goes, "Great. First of all, you got to connect with my assistant. What do you think we should do?" And I go, "How about I help you write your book? That'll help you raise money, and I'll bring you into my studio and interview you, and you can send out the videos instead of traveling all the time." He goes, "Perfect. What are you doing next week?" It was like that.
Wow.
So the whole thing is, the real answer, and I'll tell you the Tony story too, which was when I had Traffic Geyser, we started having some hits, some success. The product worked, and I was very good friends with my Tony Robbins rep because I had been through all of Tony's programs from 96 on. I went through his coaching training, blah, 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 blah. You're nodding your head like maybe you did it too. Did you do it? All that stuff?
I know of it. I haven't. I've done a lot of personal development over the years, though. Yeah, I understand.
All right. Well, just by a set of lucky coinkadinkies, my rep, his name is Chris Hendrickson. He's married to Pam Hendrickson, who for 20 years had produced almost all of Tony's products and been doing a lot of his events. And I stayed in touch with Chris. And in fact, one of the reasons we moved to San Diego is I had my Tony Robbins connection. And truth was, I visualized I wanted to somehow find a way to work with Tony someday, just like I wanted to work with Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy, all these guys. And there was a time when Pam and I were talking, and Pam said, Tony really needs help with marketing. Their online marketing wasn't working at all. And they were going through a siloing time where their sales were off. And she said, do you think you can meet with Tony and talk with him about marketing? And I'm like, screw him. No way. No, I said, absolutely. I'd love to.
I'm not meeting with that guy.
That jerk.
He's my competitor.
I'd never do that. Have him write out a check for $1 million. Maybe. No, it was, right. Yeah, totally. And so she arranged the meeting. I went and met with Tony, and we just got along great. And he goes, what do you think I should do? And I go, I got a couple ideas right at the top of my head. First of all, I think Power Talk was one of your best products ever. I like, all your books and your, at those times it was tapes, but, it converted to CDs. But Awaken the Giant Within and all of his original recordings were powerful, but Power Talk was interviews with brilliant people. And I said, here's the thing, Tony, I know this for a fact. So like Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, Russell Brunson, Brendan Burchard, Yannick Silver, at the time, Mike Filsame, and I could go through the list of every online marketer. One thing they all had in common is Tony Robbins had changed their lives. He goes, really? And I'm like, yeah. Every one of these guys will say, you're the reason why they're successful. He goes, I can't believe it. I go, it's true, Tony. And I go, here's what I think you should do, and I'll make this happen. I said, I can get all those guys to show up and we can create Power Talk, except it's about making money in the new world. And that eventually became the New Money Masters, which is recordings with all of them. John Carlton, one of the greatest copywriters, Dean Jackson, one of the most brilliant, the guy who invented the squeeze page, right? I said, I will introduce all them to you. We'll do a product and I'll even pay for it. You can record everything in my studio. You just show up, interview these guys, and I'll do all the work and I won't charge you a dime. He goes, what do you want? And I'll say, I don't want anything. I said, the truth is, if I do something with you, I'll have created an incredible brand for myself. And more importantly, I didn't tell him that. Actually, here's what I told him. I said, I'm alive because of you. I'm successful because of you. You changed my life. My first business cost me my first marriage, and I was a fat loser. And on the way, I was fast on my way to becoming an alcoholic until I went through personal power. And I wouldn't have anything. I wouldn't be married. Nothing that I have right now would exist without you in my life. And he was like, he cried. That's the kind of guy he is. And so I arranged the next meeting was with Frank and Jeff Walker, and a little bit later with Brendan and Russell and all those guys. And I said, let's make this product and let's do a launch for Tony in the meantime and show you what we got. And we did like a multi-million-dollar launch for him. Frank Kern wrote all the copy. I mean, it was like,
wow,
it was unbelievable. So, how do you translate into real world? When people come to me and they say, hey, can you introduce me to Tony Robbins? I'll go, stroke a check for $1 million, give it to his foundation. You might get 5 minutes with him. Okay. If you want to get his attention, write a check or help him grow his business, and don't expect anything. Okay. That's how you show up. And what ended up happening, the other thing we did is we did what became Business Mastery. We did the first one with them. We just said, why don't we get a whole bunch of great people together, throw an event together, have everyone speak, teach their best stuff, and you get all the credit, Tony. He's like, all right. He wasn't going to say no to that.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So I way over answered your question, but I think in every single case, I just showed up. Like Darren Hardy, he was in a mastermind group that I was in, and he had been working at Success Magazine, never collected a lead. And I gave him access to a tool. At the time, it was Instant Customer. He built a list of over 50,000. And he says, what should I do next? And I go, do a damn launch, do an offer. Made $1 million in a couple of days. And he says, what should I do next? It was like, I just showed up and I gave. I didn't expect anything. And you having some skills and being able to provide some value that these people need. But you got to remember, these people are surrounded by jackals.
Right.
They don't know who the hell to trust. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but it's like,
you did.
Create situations where you get to meet these people, put your best foot forward, and give them an offer they can't refuse.
That's beautiful. I really like that. And you said you were a part of Business Mastery and in creating that program. And I know numerous very, very successful entrepreneurs that have taken that and they rave about it still to this day, which is really impressive. But at the beginning of the story, you talked about some skills and behavior that you learned. And then you told the sexy part of the story, right, with Richard Dreyfus and Tony Robbins. What are those skills, Mike? What are some of those skills and then the behavior that you showed when, I guess, implementing those skills? Because I think that's something that I think we just assume that, people are either going to be good and bad. And if you're good, you're going to have these skills and behaviors, right? And if you're going to have that behavior or values. But what I've learned personally is that through years of experience, it's taken a lot to understand behavior and how to handle that in relationships and partnerships and meeting Richard, somebody famous on an airplane, and how to engage with that person. So they have a positive memory of you or experience with you. So if we could talk first about those skills and what those are for you, Mike, and then how the entrepreneurs out there or wannabe entrepreneurs or just regular folks can implement behavior to engage and create things with amazing people like you have.
All right. I got a few that pop into my head.
Okay.
So the first thing in terms of a skill that might be harder to replicate, but it's just like one of my own superpowers, is I learned how to do video marketing early on. In fact, the first information product I ever created was called the Internet Infomercial Toolkit, and it came up before there was a YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I got to be known for being the video guy. In fact, the first real thing I did with Tony is I went to his house at the time it was in Palm Desert, and set up his home studio and showed him how to record videos, because he was always frustrated because he couldn't get his message out fast enough to his audience. And he's like, how do I do this? I'm just like, I have to wait. It takes weeks until someone turns it around. Everything has to be perfect. I just want to get my video to people. And I'm like, let's set up a little studio and something that's portable, a portable rig that you have control over instead of being dependent on a bunch of folks. So, I'm always looking for what's the fastest way to get the job done and what's someone's greatest pain, mm-hmm. and find the fastest way to do that that's relatively brain dead. That has immediate value. It's speed. Time kills deals. Okay.
I love, if I can interject, I love how you put that. What's the fastest way to solve somebody's problem or challenge that's relatively brain dead? I love that.
It is. Yeah. And people leave clues as to what that is. If there's someone that you really, really, really want to meet, you can see their frustration. You can see that problem. And none of us are good at staring up our own belly buttons, but we can see other people's, we can see the fuzz in someone else's pretty easily. And so it's like, where can I provide massive immediate value, a connection, a relationship, or solve a problem? And look, if you're not a technical person, then focus on building networks with people. Like the things that matter most. Brian Tracy told me this years ago, our lives are changed by the books we read and the people we meet.
Right.
Okay. So that brings me to the next really, really good strategy, which is memorable gifts. There's a guy named John Ruhlin who wrote a book called Giftology, and he's an expert gift giver. And one of the things that he does is he creates customized gifts for people. So one of them, for example, is he was a sales guy for Cutco knives, for example. So one of the things that I've been doing with John is creating custom knife sets with quotes on them. So I'll give you a real life example of something that could have huge impact. So I was coaching someone recently who is going to be on the Joe Rogan show. And he's like, how can I make my interview really memorable? How can I get invited back on the show? And I said, I'll tell you how, because I used to watch, ever since they went to Spotify, I've been paying attention to Joe as much because it's a crap platform. But before that, when it was great, I hate Spotify, just for the record. It's garbage. But what he did is, if you watch his best shows that have the highest views, that are the most memorable with the most comments, by the way, Spotify destroyed that. I'll stop now. But back when you could watch it in YouTube and actually there was a community, one of the things I noticed is people would bring little gifts and they'd hand it to Joe. And, they'd have some sort of a tchotchke. So this guy is I'll say in the health related market. So I invented products with him that he could hand to Joe to tell his story. And he'd say, well, first, here's this thing, and this will help you do X, give you a special secret power. Boom, hand it to him. And then here's something else, give you a special secret power. And then give him, for example, so Joe is an elk hunter. So if he'd bring him a custom knife, Joe's going to lay it on his desk and he's going to see it every day.
Right.
And I got this idea. The first time I got exposed to amazing gift giving was from a friend of mine named Merlin Quiggle. And that's his real name, I swear to God. He's a video producer. He used to produce content, videos, magazines, and stuff like that for Christian colleges. That was his niche. I called him up one day. I'm like, Merlin, what are you doing right now? And he goes, I'm buying some of my friends' Rolex watches. I'm like, holy crap, Merlin, how much do those things cost? He goes, about 14 grand each. I'm like, that's an amazing gift. I go, am I getting one? No, I didn't say that. But I said,
you're like, I'm on that list, right, Merlin? If not, put me on there.
You cheap bastard. No, I said, why are you doing that? And he goes, I'll tell you why. He goes, first of all, I'm giving them some people who have made a huge impact in my life. Second thing is they're responsible for all of the business I've had for the past 20 years. And he said, the third reason is, who do you think they're going to think of every time they check the time?
You're thinking Merlin.
Oh,
that's it.
What a freaking genius, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a third thing, and this is easy that anyone does. It's something I called it, and I've called it for years. I wrote a book called Money Phone, and the basic idea is this is how I generate referrals, business, connect with folks. So I've been kind of sloppy about it lately, but in general, a minimum of once a month, I pull out my mobile phone, pull out your iPhone, turn off, put it in airplane mode, and then you scrub through and identify every single person in your text messages who either represents a money opportunity, a relationship opportunity, or, oh my God, I forgot the follow-up opportunity. Okay. And you rate them on a scale 1 to 10. So just pull out and I do it outside, and I grab a great cup. Like today, I made myself a dirty chai before we started our conversation, and a fancy mug that my wife just got from Mexico. But I like to surround myself with something that makes me feel good and peps me up a little. Right. So I make this a fun experience. So I write down all these names, and then I write a little blurb on what they need to hear or see from me. And then I create what I call money phone videos. And it's like, hey, Chris, thinking about you today, and I've got an idea that'll help you grow your business. You and I talked about blah, blah, blah on our recording. And if you want, I've got a few ideas for you. Just text me back, and we can either jump on a quick call or I'll follow up with a video. That's effectively what the teaser is. And the idea is, I've been thinking about you. I've got an idea that will help you get laid, get paid, live forever. Okay. One of those 3 things. And it comes from the heart. It genuinely does, but it encourages a follow-up or follow through. And the beauty of this is, if you create 5 or 10 at a time, you're going to see when people start responding to you. And remember, time kills deals. It's like when you see a response, they're engaged, they're having a conversation, and that's better than like having a database of 100,000 names and sending out a freaking email and maybe getting 300 opens. Who cares, right? This is immediate, high value people.
Yeah.
So create high value giving conversations where you're helping people, and it always turns into business. And then the other one I do is I connect people. I create relationships. And who do they think of whenever they're together? Like I get follow-ups from people where someone will say, you have, someone I know who, by the way, just did his company just went public for over $1 billion a short time ago. I'll say I can't give away too much here. But I had helped him raise $1 million for another business a year ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, this guy is thinking about me a lot right now. I helped him out a couple times, and he's surrounded with jackals and vermin after this big raise that just happened. I'm not one of those guys in his mind, right? I'm not some guy looking for something. So energetically, the money phone requires an energetic give. I am here to support you, and I've got an idea for you. And it naturally turns into a business conversation as long as you're willing to trust it.
Right.
And I think that's really what's behind all these is you got to give without expecting anything in return and play the long freaking game.
Mm-hmm. The long game. It's so essential. I really like that telephone strategy. Can we reiterate the steps really quick? Okay.
So, and if you want, I'll give you a link because I've got a video and I'll give everyone my book if you want. So I'll just do that at the end if you'd like.
Yeah.
So it's Money Phone is the name of the strategy. And the basic idea is you open up your mobile phone, put it in airplane mode. The reason why you do that is because when you start flipping through, you're going to be like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. All these people you forgot.
Yeah.
You realize you didn't follow through. But you open up the text messages, and the first thing you just zip through and you write down, who are all the people who are money now opportunities? Those are people who I can easily have an idea that can create, like for you, people who could join your mastermind. There's probably people you've engaged with, and it could have been 6 months ago, and they said, not now, but you forgot to follow up. You didn't put them in, any kind of a system, a CRM or whatever. It might have been someone you met somewhere, you met them online, you had a brief conversation, and you just forgot about each other. Mm-hmm. Okay. Fell off the radar. So that's tier 1, money now. And you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 meaning they're hot, 1 meaning maybe sometime, but I should ping them.
Okay.
The second group are people who need to know each other. So when you're looking through there, you're going to create connections.
Okay.
Right. And the third are going to be, I look for what are ambassador relationships, meaning these are people who could potentially introduce me to people that I should or want to know.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the message composition is, hey, Chris, I woke up today thinking about you, and I have an idea that will help you, blah, blah, blah.
Lose weight, make money, be more popular, pick up hot chicks, live forever. Carry a magic wand.
In that exact voice, right? In those voice tones.
Yeah, totally. Hey, we've got an infomercial here for you.
Yes.
Have you ever wanted a big cuddly hug from a koala bear? I know you have.
Yes. And but you come up with something and you say, I've got 5 minutes now if you'd like to have a brief conversation, or should I follow up with a short video? The whole deal is they have to ask you. If you dump on them, you're chasing them.
Right.
You have to be pursued. Dan Sullivan says, always be the buyer.
Always be the buyer. Okay.
Always be the buyer.
I love that. Okay. I'm going to implement that. That's a good one. I've got
that stuff's money, baby.
I know I've got so many contacts, and sometimes it's hard to. That is a fantastic system to manage the contacts, stay in connection with people. I think you have this personality, and I do too, is like you probably love networking. I love networking and meeting amazing people. Like, it's just a part of who we are. And a lot of entrepreneurs out there just aren't great at it. They want to learn from us.
They're scared.
They're scared. Yeah.
Anyone who says I'm an introvert, I go, you don't have a big enough pain and a big enough why, and someone you need to save right now. Okay. I think that's complete bull. And I work with a lot of business owners who say they're introverts. I need 5 minutes with them and I'll rearrange their brain and they'll never say that ever again. But keep going.
no. I want to learn about this. Like, how are you? Say I told to you, Mike, I was an introvert, which I'm not, but I do work with a lot of introverts. What's some of the process you take through them and help them rearrange your brain?
All right. So the first thing I say is, first of all, you got to punch the elephant in the face. Okay. What's that mean? There's an elephant in the room and everyone's thinking it. Everyone's talking about it, but no one's willing to see it, address it, and sock it, and knock it over. Okay. So there's always an elephant in the room and you got to punch them in the face. And I mean that in a very nonviolent, loving way, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But so the first thing I'll say is, oh, really? Okay. Now, I'd be willing to say that there is probably an unresolved trauma or something horrible that someone said to you early on in your life. Could be a parent, something that happened in school that flipped that switch. Is that true? Is that possible? And if they don't say yes, I'll keep on asking the same question 4 different ways until I finally get them to tell me what happened that made them afraid, that made them sad, that they're terrified for. And we'll just address that. And I go, I'm not picking on you, but it's important that we bring it to the surface because you can't deal with this until that's done. Now, and again, I'll do it either that first or the other thing first. And I pick that based on who they are. The second one is this. Who do you want to be a hero to more than anyone? Who is it? And they'll be, it's my kid, it's my wife, it's my customer, it's the whomever. And tell me about them. What's their name? And I really, really personalize that. Why? Tell me why. Why is that important? I want to give back to blah, blah, blah. Or if my son sees me this way, he'll be this way. I want to be a good example. I want to leave a legacy. So what I'm looking for is some leverage, some psychological leverage. I go, okay, great. And then I'll also oftentimes ask them what's known as the Dan Sullivan question, which is this. Hey, Chris, if you and I were going to meet up, let's say we're going to do a follow-up podcast. Might be a year from now, 3 years from now, except it's in person somewhere awesome. Okay. And I want to get an awesome thing because I want you to visualize where it's going to be and make that real in your head.
Fishing village in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the Baja. So you and I'm going to take you down to my new place in Todos Santos, Baja. Do you fish or what do you like to do? Are you like adult beverage drinking more? You had to pick one.
I like life experiences. So fishing and then eating the fish would be a lot of fun. Maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So we've got that. So by the way, the weather down there is breathtaking. People are so kind and sweet. So I want you to visualize that. So we're going to meet up. I'm going to fly you down to the Baja. We're going to spend 3-day weekend together. You can bring family or your spouse if you want. You'll love my wife. And I want to know what will have happened personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress. Tell me a little bit about that. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want to make? Who do you want to be connected with? Who do you want to have a relationship with? What kind of impact do you have? What else? I want to stack that up. Again, I'm looking for what are your dreams? And if I'd say, now, is it possible that the story that you've been telling yourself and associated with that trauma from your past has been standing in your way of serving your child or maybe making those dreams come true? And if there were a way to set that aside so you could speak with total authority and absolute passion, knowing that you can achieve that and you can serve the one you love so much, that maybe you'd be able to set that story about being an introvert aside just once for a couple minutes if I guided you step by step through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, this is something that kind of needs to be done conversationally, but that's effectively the structure, which is find out their story that they've been repeating to themselves, that they've been hypnotizing themselves with for a long time. Find out who they want to serve. Give them a version of the future. Let's set into it. Let's feel it together and let's celebrate it together. This is something we are going to experience. And then offer to guide them through how to present with authority, thinking about the one they want to serve the most. And so what I've taught people for 15 years to do is when you sit down at the camera, I want you to imagine someone you love more than anyone. And if you need to put that person's name on a poster or put a picture next to that camera lens, you snap it right there, and you're only speaking to one person.
Right.
There's no all of you. There's no you guys. That's like saying F the president, right? You're not speaking to many ever. You're only speaking to one.
Right.
Help one person.
Right. That's fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. One thing I want to touch on, Mike, before we wrap things up is one of the things you talk about is strategies to double sales in a rapid amount of time, like 72 hours. What are some of the processes you take through people and clients to help them do that? Because that sounds fantastic, I think, for absolutely anybody. We always hear Grant Cardone, 10x next week, and this and that. But I kind of like the moderation, like 2x sales in 72 hours. Like what? I imagine there's some behavioral shifts and mindset shifts that we can make in our strategy, in the way that we're working and implementing things that can really help us do that quickly. So.
Right. Okay. I'll go through. So I've got essentially 6 steps.
Okay.
But I'll walk you through a real life example. So first of all, the 6 steps are in order: mindset, market, model, message, media, multiplier. Now, what does all that mean? So when I'm working with people, my big promise is that in 2 to 3 days, we are going to create our equivalent of the one-word offer experience. And that always comes from, first of all, I need to know your mindset. So there's a series of questions I like to ask, and we've got like a form we put people through. And I put people into a future-paced mindset. So just like that Dan Sullivan question I asked you earlier, if you and I were going to meet here 3 years from today, what would have happened personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress? Mm-hmm. I really want to know that. And then I also want to ask you some questions and really understand your superpower. So if I asked you, I said, Chris Reynolds, if you could spend 99% of your time doing the thing you love the most, whether it was profitable or not, what might that be?
That's a really great question. The first thing I would say is making incredible life experiences for like-minded personal growth, entrepreneurial type of people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I would expect, is it fair to assume that dealing with operations, employees, standard operating procedures, expecting people to mind read you, dealing with the minutia of autoresponders, follow-ups, funnels is a form of hell and torture?
To say the least, Mike.
Yeah.
To say the least.
I had colorectal cancer. It almost killed me. I'd rather have cancer again. All right. It's horrible. So I'm being trying to be funny, but that most entrepreneurs, most business owners would agree with that statement on one level or another. And so that is something so 99%. So if you could just be creative, spending your time crafting creative experiences with like-minded, abundance-minded business owners, and being able to create fun experiences where you bring people together and they'd say, Chris, my life was changed because you're in it. And you introduced me to someone who's become a lifelong friend and partner. And by the way, we're making money too. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty happy ending, right?
That's what I love. Yes.
I got your number.
Okay.
And so, and what I'd want to do is just spend some time talking to you about your perfect market. And I'd ask you, like, if I said, Chris, you're already working with, I don't know, how many people are in your mastermind or your groups right now?
We have 7 right now.
7?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So out of that, I would probably suspect that one of those is sort of like your perfect ideal customer. If you had more just like that one, you'd be like, it'd be your superpower accelerator.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's got those. And I always say I like the Pareto principle, the 80-20, but I like the 2%. 20% is fine. I want the 2% and the 0.2%. So what I focus on is Let's figure out who that 0.2 or that 2% is and get a bunch just like them. And I was just, so John Assaraf and I were together this weekend. We sat on the beach in La Jolla, and we're talking for a little while, and he's telling me a story about a client he has who's a multi-billionaire. And he went from nothing to $1 billion in over a few years, and he's 41 years old. And this guy's paying John a lot of money just to coach him. And if you went to someone who's struggling to make 200 grand a year, and then you talk to a guy who's a multi-billionaire, an investment of 100 grand a month, for example, is nothing, because if they just change the way they think and one tiny behavior, it could have massive multiplier effects, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I have a belief, which is, if you make your business working with the broken, you will wind up broken too.
100%.
That's what charity is for. Give away money to the broken and have someone serve and deliver that, but do what you do best. Now, if your business, if your superpower is working with the broken, God bless your soul, Mother Teresa, but most people aren't. So market is the who. The message is, what's the story they need to hear in order to raise their hand and say yes? It's the equivalent of the Civitas moment, the one-word offer. Okay. And the 2-word brand that I don't remember right now. But then the media. So one thing I know, and you may have found this too, if you want to work with billionaires, do you think you should be marketing and advertising on Instagram or TikTok?
No.
That's correct. No, because that's where losers are. Okay. Time wasting losers. Did I say that? I meant it. Okay. No one I want to work with is spending their time on Facebook or Instagram. They pay people to do that nonsense because they know that licking toilets is bad and damaging to their health. Okay. I don't lick toilets. So the way you get clients that are billionaires are through personal relationships or belonging to other billionaire groups.
Right.
That's the media. Now, really high level people will watch a short video, and if they like the short video, they'll watch more, or they'll schedule a conversation because they know it's a high velocity, high value way to get to know someone and decide if they can trust you or work with you. Now, if you are in the business of selling a wide and shallow product, then advertising on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook is fine, right? But that's the media. And then finally, once you've got something that works, like I've devised about 30 primary multipliers. These are campaigns that I use over and over again. They're mindsets, they're messages, they're toolkits. They're like a Lego construction kit of something to do that produces a consistent result. So in order, mindset, I need to know your mindset, what you believe to be true, and what your audience believes to be true. I need to understand that galactic, cosmic, to some degree, nonsense. What's your religion that you believe, whether it's true or not, okay? And I don't need to change it. I just need to understand it. And then, who's your market? Focus on the 2%. What's your model? How do you make money? I believe when you speak the right message to the right audience and present the right value, this is something that Jeffrey Madoff teaches this great story about the bottle. Did he tell you about the water bottle?
I don't think he did. No.
I'll give you the brief one.
Okay.
If I held out right now, this is my invisible water bottle, and I said, Chris, what is this bottle of water worth? You would say?
Nothing. Yeah,
could be nothing. Could be, but if you bought it at Costco in the little machine, how much would it cost you?
$1, $2, $3, $4. Yeah. Depends on San Diego or somewhere else. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on, So it could be 50 cents, could be $5, depends on where. But if we were in the desert, you're dying of thirst, and you are literally going to die in the next 2 hours unless you get some water, and I have the only bottle of water, and I say, Chris, it's life or death. It's $1,000. You gonna give me $1,000 for that bottle of water?
That's a steal, man. I would have given you more.
It's a great deal.
You should have went for my entire bank account.
That's right. Context is everything. Okay.
Yeah.
I still want to have a relationship after you survive, right?
Yeah.
And maybe my next bottle of water will be half off. I'm just messing with you. But the point is, context is everything. And my job is to understand the mindset of both the buyer and the seller, figure out who your market is, devise a model, craft the context, the story, the Civitas offer with the message. What's the story you need to hear to raise your hand and say, that is amazing? The answer is yes. And then the media, where are we going to put it? And what is it? Are you going to read it? Are you going to listen to it? Are you going to watch it? And then the multipliers are, and I might say to you, Chris, my goal is to present your offer and position you and package you as an authority to Oprah. And Oprah is willing to gamble her personal platform, her reputation, and introduce you to 10 people who are perfect, right fit clients for your $1 million a year mastermind. Okay. That's basically what happens. And that's the general system. And that, I call that the superpower accelerator. That's the whole idea behind it. And I do that in 3 days. And one of the things that I usually do is I interview someone and I'd say, all right, Chris, now that we know what your superpower is, I know what you are, know what you're doing. Let's meet and I'll interview you. And I'll turn that interview into an article that we're going to put in Forbes or Entrepreneur Magazine or another publication and give you a cool title and describe you. So now you've got conversion collateral. You've got a story and a third-party endorsement about you that generates traffic, leads, sales. And all you got to do is say, hey, why don't you just watch this video or read this article and you'll understand who I am and what I do and if we should have a conversation.
Yeah, which is exactly what you have on your website, which is, 3 minutes. I learned not everything, but a lot about you and everything that you have going on. Tell us real quick about the Superpower Accelerator.
Right. Well,
if people want to find it and all the details you have about it.
Yeah. So you can either hit my personal website, which is just my name, MikeKoenigs.com, or it's superpower.one is the Superpower Accelerator. Okay. Here's the basic pitch. So I've built and sold 5 companies myself, and I love starting companies. I hate running them, but I'm really, really good at working with business owners and figuring out how to monetize, create a platform and monetize it really, really fast. That's all I love doing. And I'd rather do that with about 10 or 12 people a year than start and run my own companies anymore. I just don't have fun. It's like, I know what I love and I got a killer team that does it with me. So in 3 days, we will sit down with either startups with money and craft that whole story, craft the offer, or as I like to say, we'll shake the piggy bank sideways and find money you don't even see, or create a business within your business. So for example, we've been working with a financial firm that's raised over $40 billion. They're amazing at sales, and we're creating products that are monetizing their IP. Okay. And so that's what I typically do with folks is help them craft that ideal message for that perfect audience, package, position it, but we do it incredibly, incredibly fast. Nice. And then we position and frame them. We create that context with stories.
Nice. Mike, before we wrap up, I've loved this interview. I've learned a lot.
You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Awesome questions. Yeah.
Well, 500 episodes, you figure it out, right?
Yeah. You better be good by now. That's what I meant to say.
If not, something's happened. Something's wrong. I've loved this interview. I've learned a lot, and things that I'm going to directly apply actually to my business and personal network. But any last words, final words on your end, Mike, before we sign off and say goodbye?
All right. So here's one quick one for you. One of them is I promised money phone. So I don't want to forget that. So I have a little page. It's gomoneyphone.com.
Got it.
And that way that's that video. And I can send it to you if you want to embed the video or the book, which is the book. It's on Amazon also, but you might as well get it for free.
Okay.
That's one. And, you know, if I might, if you like this kind of conversation, I have the great fortune. If I had one other giant bonus massive idea, I surround myself with elder statesmen and wise people. And I almost said wise men. It doesn't matter to me who, I don't care what sex you are, what color you are, or how you identify yourself. I like brilliant people.
Right.
But older people with experience and who really understand history. The enemy of mankind is ignorance, or of humankind. Mm-hmm. And an understanding of history prevents massively stupid things from happening. You know,
Absolutely.
If you look at the incredible volume of stupid that has been invading our society over the past few years, politically and beyond, it's like during the pandemic, just like it's impossible to contain the volume of stupid in one place. But America's done a fantastic job of it, and so is most of the planet.
Yeah.
Having said that, and I want to end on a really positive note.
Okay.
Spend your time with wise older people. I have the great fortune. I do 2 podcasts, one with Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, who is unquestionably the wisest, smartest human being I've ever had made contact with. But everything out of his mouth is like, it's mind bending. Mm-hmm. It takes a little while to learn his vocabulary and understand his framing, but can't recommend that highly enough. So that would be one thing. Check out Capability Amplifier. It's a great thinking exercise. And the other one I do is with Gay Hendricks, called The Big Leap. And he's the author of The Big Leap, 40 other books. And this guy's done it all, made movies, started and sold businesses, documentaries. He's so fascinating. And he's a clinical psychologist. He got his degree from Stanford. Genius. Mm-hmm. And if you can start a podcast with someone wise, do that. Interview, like you get the opportunity to interview wise people. Again, our lives are changed by the books we read, the people we know. But the fast track to wisdom transfer, certainty transfer, comes from determining who you allow to infect your brain with.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And
100%.
And that's my advice is find a couple podcasts, consume it, get to know someone, and you'll never know. If you really want to meet someone, visualize like, how can I really serve this person? Offer them a gift of helping them accelerate and amplify their own superpowers, and they will invite you into their world and say, and now what can I do for you?
I know. I've experienced that many times, and it's incredible. There's like a synergy there, right? It's a combination of 2 individuals giving to one another without expectations, and especially if somebody's good or talented at it, like yourself, like it's a phenomenal experience. Jeffrey Madoff is another fantastic example.
He's so good. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
Get him on anyone who's got a podcast, get Jeffrey on.
He's so willing. Good. He's ready.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like he came on the show, and after the podcast, I always ask, is there anything that we can support you in? Any projects you're working on? And he said, I'm really looking to get on some more podcasts. So I got him on a podcast, Asian Efficiency with Tan Pham. And I said, it's about productivity. And Jeffrey's like, I'm not the most productive person in the world. And I argued that. I said, well, if you've created what you have your own version of productivity that may help a lot of people. And he said, okay, let's do the introduction. That was a really successful show that they did. And then Jeffrey referred you to me. And so we've been in contact back and forth. And so it's been quite fun. And that happens when you just come in a place to give. So great advice. Fantastic.
And this is the bigger one, just to put the cherry on top, and then we can wrap. Anytime you can provide someone with a platform, mm-hmm. your platform, that has so much value. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why podcasting has taken off, the podcast swap and that kind of thing. But that's what we did back in Main Street Marketing Machine days. I gave my customers a platform. I literally made them famous, niche famous, and they got to taste it. And they'd go from making, 6 figures to 7 figures in 6 or 8 or 10 months or 12 months. And I still get people 10 years later. They're like, that you putting me on your stage and giving me that trust changed everything in my life.
Absolutely.
And that's when we go back to the platform of the App Store, the platform of Tesla or SpaceX. Platforms are massive multipliers. And if you can create a platform and give someone a taste of celebrity fame or up-leveling them, that is incredibly valuable.
I agree 100%. Mike, I've loved this interview. I've loved picking your brain and learning so much from you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing everything with us.
It's my pleasure. Consider it anytime. And yeah, let's make some introductions too. That's a great way for us to continue our relationship. If the listeners want to learn more about you, where's the best place they can do that at, Mike? Yeah, you can. One is just send me an email. It's mikekoenigs@gmail.com. My assistant will get it to me. Otherwise, visit my websites, mikekoenigs.com or superpower.one. And if you're a right fit and you love the story that I told, I work with a few people a year, and nothing gives me more pleasure than finding ways to shake piggy bank sideways and, make more money, have more impact. And also I believe that work is play and play is work. So I play with the people I work with, and I don't waste time. So, if we're working, we're making money so we can play more. Amen. I love that. So you can go fishing in Mexico, right? That's the plan, my friend. 6 months a year is the goal. Mike, again, thank you so much. It was a fantastic interview. Listeners, we want to thank you guys for tuning in once again, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.